Hi there, I'm May, and this is May's Crochets. I'm a beginner crocheter just starting off on my learning to crochet journey, and I've been working my way through a bunch of the Woobles Learn to Crochet kits as a way to learn how to crochet. I'm here today to talk about Alice the Strawberry. I believe that this is my eighth Wooble that I've made. I have full video reviews of all previous seven Woobles in my channel, and I will link them down below. But for today, we're going to talk about Alice the Strawberry. So let me show you the kit. Here's the front of the kit. And here's the back of the kit. So just like all of the other Woobles kits, it has absolutely everything you need to make this project. We've got yarn, step-by-step videos, pre-started piece, crochet hook, stuffing, plastic eyes, yarn needle, and online instructions. So without further ado, let me show you how she came out. Here she is, Alice the Strawberry, with her little eyes and her little smiling mouth. Let me spin her around. She's got some seeds. Let me show you the top. We've got leaves and a stem. Let me show you the bottom. So yeah, here she is, Alice the Strawberry. So I did something kind of fun this time. I actually made a time-lapse video of Alice coming together round by round, which I will link below for you to take a look if you're interested. It's not me like crocheting Alice. You don't see me in it. You just see kind of the yarn growing stitch by stitch as Alice comes together. And it was kind of a fun thing to do. So let me know if you like that, if you want to see more of that in the comments. And I think I will continue to experiment with it because it's kind of a fun thing to see at the end. Go back and look and see how she kind of comes together stitch by stitch, round by round. But okay, let's talk about actually crocheting this. So overall, a good experience like all the other Woobles. This one wasn't too hard. The body of the Wooble was pretty standard like the others. We've got single crochet stitches, increase and decrease. I guess the tricky part with this one was mainly the leaves and the stem, which was a little bit of a challenge, but nothing too crazy. And then kind of the adding of the embroidery of the mouth, and then the adding of the little seeds. The main thing I want to talk about with this one is my crochet hook size. So the Woobles come all with a 4mm crochet hook, and all of my previous Woobles that I've made have some amount of like visible, I guess, holes between the stitches where you can see a little bit of the stuffing. And I've been doing an experiment where I've been decreasing my crochet hook size in an effort to get rid of these holes and to see if going down a hook size makes a difference. And that's what some people seem to say, that is a big thing that makes a difference. Otherwise, there's probably some other factors as well. So I've been working my way down in hook sizes in my previous projects. So again, the Woobles comes with 4mm. I've done previous projects with 3.75mm, 3.5mm, and 3.25mm. And my next hook size down, I wanted to try a 3mm. So I had bought a set of Clover Amour crochet hooks, like a multi-pack that had a whole bunch of different sizes. Side note, a lot of people recommend the Clover Amour crochet hooks. And I bought them, and I have to say, I love them. I totally am on board with what everyone is saying. They're so super smooth to glide kind of through the stitches. It's been a really good experience. My Woobles hooks have been a little bit hit or miss in the projects that I made early on just using those hooks. There was at least one where it was like sticking and the metal like wasn't gliding, which was not a very nice experience. And like the ergonomic like plastic part of the handle was coming off on one of them. So I'm really a fan of these Clover Amour hooks, and I'm really excited to keep using them, and I definitely highly recommend them. I will link them below in the description as well. But so anyway, I was looking to go my next hook size down for 3mm, and it turned out that the set that I got of Clover Amour hooks, the multi-pack, didn't have a 3mm hook. It had a 2.75mm hook. So that is what I ended up using. So as you can see, we've got this one, I think I used for my last project. This is 3.25mm size D. And then this is the one I actually used for this project, size C, 2.75 millimeter. I don't know if 3 millimeter just like isn't a standard size, and because it goes from C to B. I did see online like you can buy a 3 millimeter hook for sure, and there even is a multi pack of Clover and More hooks that has a 3 millimeter hook. That's just not the one that I bought. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure about that. But so I went all the way down to 2.75 millimeter for Alice. So the Woobles come with their own brand of yarn. It's called Easy Peasy Yarn, and it's a really good yarn for beginners. And the actual skeins of Easy Peasy Yarn recommend going with a 5 millimeter crochet hook. But there's a general rule sort of in Amigurumi that you want to go down a smaller hook size than what the skein of yarn says, and you want to go down around 2 millimeters smaller, though there is a little bit of a range. So the Easy Peasy Yarn says 5 millimeters. The Woobles kits give you 4 millimeters, and I think they don't want to, recommend going too small for beginners. Like you want to still be able to like get your hook into the stitches and see the stitches and all of that. But yeah, that's sort of part of this experiment. I wanted to go kind of as small as I could to see if I could get rid of the holes. So I was going for 3 millimeter. That's 2 millimeters smaller than the 5 millimeters recommended. But again, I didn't have that. So I went all the way down to 2.75 millimeters. And yeah, as you can see, I mean, I think it's pretty good. There's not too many visible holes, although there's still, there still sort of are some. I definitely would not go smaller than this for this yarn. I definitely had some times where like I was having trouble actually grabbing the yarn with the hook, which is like definitely not what you want. You want to be able to like firmly grasp the yarn with the hook. And so I think there's like maybe something else going on beyond just the hook size. I am going to experiment. I've been reading about the yarn under technique, which is a slightly different way of doing your stitches versus yarn over, which is sort of standard crochet and what the Woobles teaches. It seems like that can help get rid of the holes a little bit. So stay tuned for a future video where I experiment with that yarn under technique. There may be other reasons. Like, I mean, I tried not to stuff this one too much. I don't know if that's like, pushing out, like stretching apart the stitches. I don't think it's my tension, but maybe I could go a little bit tighter. I'm not sure. And yeah, I don't know. It's an experiment. So I think my TLDR is that hook size is not maybe the only thing that can resolve this whole situation. It's not too bad, by any means, and it's certainly better than some of my other ones. But I mean, you definitely can still see some holes there. So, oh well, still super cute. Let's see what else. Let's talk about the stem and the leaves. So this was I've done this sort of technique a few times now. You make a chain. And then you crochet into the chain. And so here, this had some, I guess, more complicated stitches. It had half double crochet and double crochet. So it sort of gets bigger and then smaller depending on the size of the stitch that you're doing. And you actually go around and make 5 of them, which was sort of an interesting technique. A little bit of a challenge, but the videos, walked you through it pretty well. I will say the one place that the videos led me a little bit astray. It said when you were fastening off on the leaves, it said be sure to leave yourself an arm's length of yarn that you can use to attach the piece to the body. And I should have realized that is not going to be enough yarn. Typically, for something small, you want like maybe an arm's length so that you can, do the mouth or whatever, and then hide the thread inside of the piece and you don't run out. But the leaves, there's 5 of them, and you need to go all the way around all of them. And an arm's length was not enough. So I ended up having to like get another piece basically of green yarn and kind of hide the original yarn tail and like add a new piece. Not the end of the world. I had more green. It just would have been nice if maybe they had warned me to do a longer piece for sewing it on. And in the same vein, so a lot of the Woobles, they walk you through everything, but they do also cut to different sections of videos that were made for other pieces that teach you certain techniques. They still try to show you a lot about, you know, your specific piece, and like they'll do an intro maybe and a sort of end, like this is how it's supposed to end up, to describe how to do it. But the actual technique, sometimes they cut to other colors, other patterns. And so again, for this one, they like, for sewing it on, they kind of showed you at the beginning like where to place it. But then it cuts to just like a totally different, it's like sewing on one of these like stomach circles in a circle round onto a Wooble's body. It shows you how to like sew that on. And yeah, technically it's the same technique of sewing a, you know, a piece onto another piece. But this one is so different because of the placement of all of the leaves and like the fact that there's five of them. And it just felt like so different than what they were showing. It felt a little bit silly, I will say. Not the end of the world. I mean, it's still the same technique. But sometimes like the details like that in these Woobles kits like are missing a little bit. Kind of the things that are less standard that you really want to see, like the person doing it bit by bit by bit and seeing it come together. Because like even just like thinking about the exact placement of the leaves was a little tricky. There was, you know, there's some details that were a bit tricky. But yeah, so you do the leaves and then you make the stem separately and kind of sew it on. And then yeah, you add the seeds, you add some yellow yarn and just sort of pick them randomly, pick the spots and kind of embroider them on, which is I guess a nice little touch. At first I kind of looked at them and thought, do they look like chicken pox or like some type of I don't know, spots. But no, they're seeds, and it is like kind of a little touch to kind of add a little extra character. So yeah, that is Alice the Strawberry. Definitely good for summer, pretty cute. And I think that's it for today. And stay tuned for a future video where I make Pina the pineapple and add to my Woobles fruit collection. So thank you so much for keeping me company, and I'll see you next time. Bye.